Hey there friends, Nibs again. Out in the garage today doing a little bit of tinkering. And nice crisp, chilly November morning. Perfect time to be inside doing some tinkering work. But I thought I would take this time to work on my buddy Ron's Crosman 1377, very early one. This is a second revision, but it's very, very early in the second revision. The first revision would have had a steel receiver. This one is a very early one with the plastic receiver. But I do like this vintage of them. I like the look of these grips and pump handle and stuff better than the newer ones. But we're going to go ahead and it does definitely need at least a pump cup. We're going to do a full reseal on it, but I think the first thing I'm going to do with it though is actually pop the pump cup off, or the pump arm off, and just replace the pump cup, because I'm pretty sure that's really all that's wrong with this. But I will do a full reseal. It only takes a couple of minutes to pop it off and pop it back on again, so we'll do that first and test it and see how everything else is working with it. But once we get that done, we'll see how she works. But I have a camera running up here. Actually, I got to start it. Camera running up here, capturing video of all the overhead action here. So let's go ahead and switch up to that and get started. I forgot to mention that the fellow who sent this over to me to take a look at, his channel is Milsurp Garage. Really cool channel, does a lot of deep dives. He's got a lot more patience for research than I do, but I really appreciate that kind of work. I really like seeing Arcel as well. Sometimes I can't watch the whole video, my ADD kicks in, but that's the way it goes. So first thing we got to do, so I like this vintage because they have, instead of having a roll pin that you got to pound out with a punch, it actually has a pin with a little clip on there, which these clips can be a little bit of a bugger to get off though. But you just get under it with a little flat blade screwdriver. Make sure you put your finger over top of it though, because you want to make sure it doesn't go flying on you. And you want to get underneath near the crack, the split in the ring, and then just kind of work your way around it. And I've had a couple of these go flying, so you want to make sure you have your finger over top of them while you're trying to get that off. So now that pin will just pull right out, and the front sight and barrel band will come off, and then your pump arm will come out the front. This is the pump cup right here, and she's pretty hard. And what happens is these things, for whatever they made these out of, they just shrink and just don't make seal inside the piston chamber anymore, or the compression chamber anymore. One thing I do want to do before we just run a patch down through the inside of the compression chamber, just to kind of get some of that gunk out of there if there's any in there. Like this Professor Pugh, really neat stuff, good stuff. Seems like a Old Milsurp's a guy that takes really good care of his stuff. He's owned this since it was brand new. He was bought for him when he was a teenager. And you can kind of see in the way that this one is taken care of that it's, you know, it was a little dirty. That's just the black coming from the rubber cup there, though. Okay, so let's get into the parts kit here. When Henry sends a kit out, he always sends it with a card so you can get a hold of them down the road. So not much to this kit really. There's a new valve, exhaust valve, and that's for between the barrel and the receiver. And then these are that's a, what do you call it, seal for the bolt probe, and then these two go in the valve. So we'll get to that in a little bit, but let's take this, I already got a thing of oil already open up here, plenty of this oil around, but just put a little oil in there so it'll slide into the that. And I can tell just by looking at it, because that other pump cup was no bigger around than the actual arm here, and then this one is, you can see that it's cupped out at the front. So now we're gonna put this back in, put this little wrist pin back in there. So this is, you gotta just be a little careful getting this guy back in there. It can be edges that can get caught on. There she goes. See that right there, it's it's making pressure already, so that's a really good sign. Let's go ahead and get that back in there so we don't have to mess around with that little clip yet. We'll just get this guy in here like that, and now we can, not flopping down anymore. And it's making good pressure. Let's take a couple shots with it. I'll bring it back over here to the normal camera, and we'll see how it does. Alright, so far I replaced the pump cup and it seems to be really working well. I don't have a downrange camera going, but I just want to do a couple of test shots with it. Let me just grab some Crosman Premier hollow points here real quick. Oh yeah, hitting right where I was aiming to. Very nice. Let's do one more, and then we'll get it back over here, and we'll. That is one thing the one thing I dislike about this is the tiny little pellet. Let me see if I can ring the bell. Oh, I forgot to cock it. Yep. Alrighty, let's bring it back over. We'll tear it down the rest of the way and get her sealed up. So here we are again. I'm gonna put the rest of these parts in. She's working really good, but pull that pin back out. So I've had several of these guns, and the so this gun and the like 766 2100s, they all use the same pump cup, and it seemed like it was a common problem with these. But so actually we don't need to take the grips off, but we do need to take the handle off. So the first thing we're going to do is take the front screw out. Try to find and Milsurp actually mentioned this and several of his videos, stressing to use a proper sized screwdriver bit for the screw that you're trying to take out. You only get one chance to not bugger up a screw, so. Oh, come on. There we go. So, that looks like my dog's out there barking at something. I don't know what he's barking at. But, so this back one is shadowed by the handle, and so it makes it problematic to get out, but I like this little ratcheting deal here. You can get it broke free. Once you get it broke free, you can usually get on it with a regular flat blade or whatever. And I do like this also, this vintage of gun has a flat blade here instead of the newer ones actually have like a square drive, which is really weird. I don't know why they would do that. So while you're holding this thing, you want to be careful, because there is a spring and a ball for the safety right under there, and it will go flying. So you want to make sure, and it's right there, the spring's still there. We're going to just set that off to the side, and we don't even need to mess with that right now. So the next thing we got to do is get so there is a couple more screws that we got to get out. There's a little one down inside here, so we can little one right down inside here, down inside the pellet loading port. Those can be a bugger to get out, but we're getting it. So Crosman, or YouTube, I am not modifying this gun in any way. I am installing a factory authorized reseal kit, completely OEM factory authorized reseal kit. No modifications are being done to this gun in whatsoever. So please do not demonetize my gun. So take the rear sight off. Now the whole barrel and receiver should slide up off of there. The little cap comes off the end, and so here is this little transfer piece here, and that one kind of squared off O-ring is going to go right down inside of there. But we can take our barrel out, and rifling looks very nice. Last thing on the top here is we want to take out the screw that holds the pellet port cover, because we have an O-ring to go onto the pellet probe. So to get that out, we need to take the cover off, and then outlet probe. Oh, I thought it would come out the back. So we're going to replace this O-ring right here, but we'll do that in a little bit. First, we're going to get down into, so this, that piece goes underneath the receiver. We need to remember to put that on there before we put that all back together. So there's this little piece of plastic strip that goes between the barrel and the receiver tube, and it has a little chamfer on one end, and that goes towards the front, next to the front sight. So we need to remember to put that back in. So now we're getting down into the valve area. So this is the hammer and the hammer spring. Now the only thing left in here is get a little probe here and get this. So that is the transfer port seal. So now the last thing is we got to drive this valve out of here, and the way I do that, and I didn't get them beforehand, I should have. So what I like to use, and this is actually a little longer than needed, but if you were fixing a rifle, this would be a proper length, but 3/8 inch drive ratchet extension down into the back of the receiver tube, and the valve should push out the front. There's some gunk up in this front here that I'll clean that out. So now we've got our valve out, looking pretty good. Here's the, this is going to go in here in place of that. Looking pretty good. So we got a big O-ring that's going to go right there, and a little O-ring that's going to go in between these two halves, and then this is going to go in the back here and seal up the valve. So what I like to do is I have and I'll do this off camera, but I have a vise over here that has copper jaws in it so it doesn't mar up this metal. So I clamp it in there, and then I use these Nipex smooth jawed pliers, and they do a really good job of gripping this without biting into the brass. You don't want to use a regular pair of like channel locks or whatever. I wish I had two. I wish I had two of these pairs of Nipex, but I don't have those yet. So let me see. Maybe I can get it to come apart without. Oh yeah, there we go. So I just used a punch in the transfer port hole there, and we can get down inside the valve. So we're going to reuse that spring. Some of Henry's kits, he does send a new spring, but the ones that he's found that the springs are still good for, he does not send a replacement spring. So this is another part that is often bad, is this little rubber seal in here that and it is pretty hard. This one's pretty hard, so it probably would not have lasted much longer. Sometimes I find that if I rebuild the gun, I put a new pump cup in it, it seems like it's working fine, and then other parts that had been sitting dormant for a long time end up not staying sealed. So that's, even though it was working, that's why I found that it would be much better to just reseal this whole thing. So a little bit of dirt inside there, just, you know, years and years of use. Every time you pump it, you're pumping air in there. There's a little bit of dirt in the air. But I'm going to go ahead and cut the camera off. I'm going to clean all this stuff up, get it real nice and clean, and then I'll bring you back on for the reassembly process. So stand by. Alrighty, so I am back. I've got everything all cleaned up pretty well, and we're we're going to go ahead and stick this thing back together. Let's get the valve reassembled first off. Everything was really in pretty good shape, so got 2 new O-rings for the valve right here. So this is our new valve stem. Really like this new style of valve stem. But we're going to go ahead and I always like to put a little bit oil on each one of these pieces as you're putting it back together to let everything slide in and seal up real good. So there's our valve seating up there. So now we're gonna go ahead and get a little bit of oil on this O-ring, and it will slide over top of these threads here. So these are sometimes Henry includes new. So this is the intake valve. This is what actually seals up. And again, like I said, he's done this for a long time, and he knows exactly what needs to be included and what doesn't. But that inlet valve, so when you pump the handle, it squeezes air into this little nozzle here and pushes back on that inlet valve, and then when you pull the handle back out, that closes back up and keeps what pressure you've just pumped with that one pump inside the valve, so it doesn't leak back out again. So that is all there is to that. So this is the exhaust valve, and it's supposed to be exactly 180 degrees out from this screw, which is the bottom screw for the front handle screw. Alright, so now we're going to put the O-ring back on the outside of the valve body here. Very good. So let's put a little bit of oil in the tube here just to let her slide. And so we want to make sure as best we can that when we're if it gets started and doesn't quite line up, you can use your punch and get it lined up square in that hole. So now we're going to take our extension again, and you might not see this, but we'll start pushing that guy down into the tube. We're pretty close. Okay. So I'm really close there. I can use my punch here to straighten it up the rest of the way. That's pretty good. The transfer port is very square with the top, and that screw is very square with the bottom. So we are ready to put this all back together. So now we get our new transfer port seal and stick it down inside there. And this is this little tiny metal ring. I've bought a couple of these and that was missing, so I like to mention that because people, I think, forget that needs to go in, and that is important. So let's go ahead and get our receiver, and this little metal piece goes in the back here. So before we get to that, we got to put our bolt probe back in there. So this, that O-ring is very crunchy. And it just snapped. So it's very brittle. It's cracking right up. that's what seals. So when you put the pellet in there and close the bolt probe, that seals against the end of the barrel and keeps the gases from blowing back out through the transfer or through the receiver. New O-ring on there, no problem. So this one doesn't have an orientation. Some of the bigger ones, the 22s, don't have a magnet in there. So this has a magnet, so you could throw a BB against it. But some of the bigger ones, like the 22s, have a hole in the bottom so that the air will come up and out through the port. So that when you have one of those, you have to make sure of your orientation there. But this one does not have that, so we don't have to worry about it. Alright, so let's get our barrel back on here. So the barrel, you want the hole in the barrel to line up with our transfer port, and then it's going to line right up with that, no problem. So now we want to get to this little tiny screw again. And that magnetic bolt probe is going to be a pain in the butt, but we'll get it. Milsurp's got patience for the research. I've got patience for the rebuilds. Okay, now we're back together. So now I can take this pin out, take this front off, and put this piece of plastic back in between the barrel and the receiver. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So now let's put our pellet port cover back on here. The right way. I don't do this every day, folks, so I do enjoy doing it. So now this little screw goes into that hole there. Threads into our pellet probe. That. Alrighty. So now this is our hammer assembly. So this piece here goes into the back of the receiver. Actually, I gotta put this little cap on there first. That goes in, and then we can put our rear sight back on. Rear sight screws down through that little cap in the barrel or in the receiver down into the block that holds the hammer or the hammer spring. I think I got it started now. So I don't like to snug that up yet because we've got one more screw to put in. So now we can flip this guy over and we're going to put our handle back on. So now the handle is Again, we got the little spring, and there's a ball under there, and if you lose those, they're very hard to replace. So bring your handle onto the pump tube and get our front screw in here and get that started. Started, no problem. So now we flip it around and get our rear screw. Get that. Get that guy started into his threads. Now we can get our little angle guy here again. Now we can snug all our screws up. Get the one on the top here. Don't over tighten this one. It's only holding on a piece of plastic here, so but now we should be, that should be working. Now we just got to get the pump cup back in again. All our little O-rings. He asked me to send all that stuff back so he can show it on his channel. That's cool. So there's our little ring. There's our little... So, take our pump cup again. Line it up on the... pump link there. Caution again getting this guy to go in, but that pin trying to fall out on me. Definitely making good compression. Very nice. We are almost done. Front sight goes back on. Wrist pin goes back in. Let's just take it. And we're making good pressure. Excellent. Now we just need to get this little C-clip back around the pin here. One end started, usually it'll go like that. Okay. So, little trick here. So I kind of scratched it up a little bit, getting that off of there, but I have the magic eraser. Nobody will ever know except for I told you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and bring you back over to the regular camera. We'll take a few shots with this guy and we'll get out of here. I know it's been a long video, but These how-tos are, I think, very worthwhile. Get these old guys back up and running. This one has such nice patina. You can tell he's just used it and used it. You can see back here where his hands were rubbing on that thing, cocking this thing back here, just rubbing where he was pumping, and just a well-loved gun. But should be good to go for another, what's this, 81, so that's 42 years old. So should be good to go for at least another couple decades, I think. Let's take some shots. Alrighty, there you go. That is the rebuild on this guy. Let's go ahead and bring it out here. And I don't have my downrange camera going, but you guys will just have to trust me when I tell you I'm hitting something. But pretty sure we could have probably got away with just doing the pump cup, but this way we'll know it'll be good to go for another 40 years. Lots of power now. Oh, I keep forgetting this is not a self-cocker. Lots of power. Let's do one more and we'll get out of here. Very nice, very nice. Anyway, there you go. Thanks a lot, Milsurp Garage, for letting me take care of this for you. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoy fixing these guys up, and it was a nice little collaboration. I'll get this guy packed back up and get it over to you. Let you enjoy your pellet gun from your youth. Hope you guys liked the video. Till next time, have a great day.